Alright, on today's episode of installing the last few items that now make this a fully loaded Rubicon, why didn't I get the switches that are supposed to be right here? Mopar only has 4 switches. Although 4 switches is probably enough for me, why would I only get 4 switches when I can get 6 switches? So I'm going to install the VO or V0 or whatever switch system. It's going to go right here, and show you in a second where it mounts in the engine bay. And the little mounting block goes right up here between these 2 bolts, if I'm not mistaken. That should fit right up under the hood. Alright, let's see how accurate I am. I think I can do this job with a couple screwdrivers, a very small socket set, some snips, and maybe a small set of wrenches. So we shall see. This is for the heat shrink wrap around any cables I need to waterproof. Let's make it happen. Well, this is easy. Hole there next to the wiper fluid, and there's a hole right there, which is not for this, but we're going to pretend it is. And just rest right on top. Once I take that bolt out, it'll sit nice and flush. Alright, so the control wire has to feed inside the cab somehow. They say in the instructions to remove this, which will give you room to feed it into the cab, and you also have to lower the windshield. I am going to go ahead and pop this off and see if that's easy enough to do. I guess it's easier than trying to punch a hole in the firewall someplace or find a hole in the firewall someplace. We'll use the T40 that comes with it. So far I haven't needed any extra tools. Is that the long guy? It's the long guy. Well, that answers that. You do definitely have to fold down the windshield. But that's cool. I kind of want to know how to do that anyway. So let's get to it. Alright, I'm glad I wasn't lazy. These are pretty easy to get to. Let me let's tripod out of the way. There we go. So there's one buried up behind here, which of course you can just go like that, get to easily. There's one in the same spot, I assume, on the passenger side. Yep, right there. And then there's one all the way back there in the corner. Follow the line of my finger. Same spot on the front. Should just be these 4, and then this windshield should just fold right down. So we'll see in a second. Alright, so update, you do have to pop the freedom panels off. No tutorial on that because just some latches. You can refer to your manual. Sorry, I meant to record it. One thing of note, as soon as you do that, you can push the windshield out and down. Let's see, it's moving. Hopefully you can see that. I think I'm also supposed to disconnect the active cruise control, but I'm pretty sure I can give myself enough room without doing that. There's a lot of play in the wires. I am going to refer back to the instruction manual before I go any further though. Don't want to break that. I love that feature. I was wrong. The active cruise control is built into right there. It's not connected to the windshield at all. That's just the defroster wires, and they actually run down through the A-pillar and they're attached to the window. So I could take my windshield wipers off, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not pushing this all the way down. This will give me enough room to feed the wire. Well, that was pretty easy. So didn't have to pop any dash panels off. You can kind of see the wire there when the door's open. But it just pushes right back into the dash once you get it in the cab. Very clean. Just runs under the panel there. One zip tie to the, I was gonna say hood release. I don't actually know what this is, but whatever this is. Runs through the existing hole there. Zip tied to the defroster. And runs right in. Doesn't impact the drainage at all. The drainage that we all know doesn't work because that all gets on your leg. And yeah. Easy peasy. Plenty of extra wire once you get it in to the cab. Alright, so the instructions say to remove 2 dash panels. I assume that's this panel and this panel. The instructions are not for a Gladiator, at least, yeah, it's on a Jeep Sahara, so this all looks a little bit different. That said, it looks like this pops off and this pops off just like any other dash panel. Do yourself a favor, spend a couple dollars, get yourself some Mopar pry tools, because you are doing this in a relatively expensive vehicle no matter what trim. So yeah, don't want to mess that up. Oh, there we go. Okay. Of course, it's a nice cold day, so even worse for doing this kind of stuff. Or you'll definitely break your plastics. There we go. All right, nothing broken. These all do just pop in as expected. I'm gonna go ahead and not unplug anything. Well, yeah. I don't think I need to unplug anything. It seems unnecessary. Sometimes when you unplug things, especially like the ignition over there, the start stop, it'll throw a code, which I have a taser, but it doesn't mean I feel like resetting any codes. Oh, that is screwed in right there, so that would have sucked if I was yanking on that. So yeah, do not remove the lower panel without first removing the top panel, because there's a screw on the top. Is all of this buried in some manual somewhere? Potentially, but you're watching this video, so something tells me you're like me, where you're skimming the manual and you'd rather just watch somebody else do this and then learn from their mistakes, or hopefully in this case, lack of mistakes. Oh yeah, we're good. Okay. Ooh, okay. Nothing broken. And there are 4 clips on this. Alright, so just a close-up of the back clips. They're all just push-in clips. They do pop right out. This is the top panel, so it does pop out. There's no screws or anything like that. Just use a Mopar pry tool and pop it right out. The lower panel did have a screw at the top, just a Phillips. Just unscrew that, and then there are 2 clips on both sides, and that pulls right out. So just, you know, even pressure, yank it out. All right, so these are 5.5 millimeter. There's probably an SAE size, but I'm using metric because the world should go metric anyway. Yes, I am in the USA, and I still say that. Huh. Well, I am pretty pleased with that factory looking finish. That is so awesome. All right, so there's actually plenty of room right up under the start-stop button hole area. I could get my left hand in under there and just push the wire up. I didn't need any fish tape or anything, and now I'll just route that so it doesn't interfere with any of the clips. But there's a ton of room back here, especially for this little wire, so I'm not too worried. Alright, so this is what the inside looks like when it's done. You can't see anything, which is exactly how it's supposed to turn out. Just tuck the wires up under the dash there, and there's a new switch panel. Nice and clean. Alright, so here's the part that's relatively self-explanatory, but here's the power wire for the battery cable. Don't know exactly why, but the instructions were very adamant about connecting the negative directly to the battery and not anywhere else on the truck. So, since I can read, I'm gonna go ahead and follow those directions. They give you plenty of cable. There's no reason not to. I've never owned a vehicle that had this many like terminal risers, I guess is what they're called. Alright, so those are all the required steps. So in theory, I should be able to press the power button and this will turn on. Hey! Alright, so let's assume that's working. There's an optional step to install a trigger wire. I guess I'll go ahead and do that. But then I have to have the Jeep on to use it, so I just don't know. Well, I am gonna trigger this by ignition. Maybe I'll regret it, maybe I won't. I was kind of thinking if I did a CB radio or something that I'd want to possibly run that without the ignition being on, but I think realistically, for my needs, I'd rather have this on-off with the vehicle. F52 is the 20 amp right here. I'm gonna pull that out. Trusty set of needle nose. And put this add a fuse in there. That is supplied. Oh, also there's a blank space there. It's always replace the one closest to the connector with your original fuse. It's the next fuse out, away from the fuse box that is your additional fuse. So they already did that for you. That all the way down. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna run the included trigger wire, which I'd otherwise have to cut or stuff someplace anyway, around back of the engine bay, which is where I ran all the other wires, right into that add a fuse. Manufacturer did such a good job of just prepping everything for me. And once all your connections are made, just clean everything up. Maybe I could have hid those wires a little better, but it does the trick. They're away from anything that'll burn through them, you know, such as the engine. And it's time to wire up my first accessory to this. So if you do install the trigger wire, it is important to toggle dip switch number 2, just where my finger is there, hopefully it comes up clear on this video, to the on position, which is up. That way this knows to turn on automatically when that trigger wire is enabled. By default it is off, so just wiring it to positive and negative on your battery, the on-off switch or on-off button inside will work. But when using the trigger wire, turn dip switch number 2 to the on position. Alright, so with the trigger wire installed, ignition is off, accessories off. That's off. Doesn't work. That's good. So I'm going to turn the accessory on, and I last had this on, so it's on. Now the on-off functions work because accessory is enabled. So we'll turn this off. Vehicle is now on off. Turn the vehicle to accessory. That now works. Turn the vehicle off. Note that I did not turn the switch panel off, so it should remember that it was on when the vehicle was last on. Let's turn the accessory back on. Switch panel is on automatically. So I think that trigger wire is going to work out pretty well for me and probably for most users. Alright, so why did I hook this thing up? Well, see, I have a power probe hooked up, so first accessory I wanted to add, some lights, because, you know, I have a Jeep and you gotta have 15,000 lights everybody knows you have a Jeep. That's a joke, obviously not the first accessory I added either, but I wanted clean installs. I have some additional cargo lights when my roof rack comes in, so I wanted a nice way to do it. I went ahead and already grounded these, so you can figure out how to ground them yourself, but boom, chassis grounding point, easy. I'm gonna run this power lead into the new switch panel system. Great thing about a power probe is you can make sure your stuff works before you go through the trouble of completing all your wiring and then troubleshooting why something doesn't work. So 12 volts. Hey look, they work. Alright, so hooking up your accessories to this thing is really easy. Labeled switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna go ahead and run this to switch 1. So I'm gonna loosen the switch 1 terminal here. Basically, you just have to take care of your own grounding solution for your accessories, and then you just run the hot wire to here. Let's take out one of these little plugs, if I can find my needle nose. Alright, in there. Alright, so in theory, if I go power the truck on and hit accessory 1, oh, look at that. It's like I know what I'm doing. Alright, this turned out pretty good. Maybe there's a better way to hide these wires, but that works up there in the back of the engine bay. I did wire a single accessory so far. These driving lights, amber. Do have the trigger installed. Obviously, I'll be installing the, or hardwiring the CB radio. Here's the cube lights, and I'll be installing some cargo lights soon, so I went ahead and placed those stickers. I do wish these were replaceable switches and not stickers, because you have to take a second to make sure you don't mess up the alignment on the sticker, but I guess it doesn't take that long. Let's turn it on accessory here. Changes to amber when you're using it. I like it. Way better than the Mopar one. Because now I have 6. Mopar only has 4.